Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Okay.
It's the
That's
best.
fine. Yeah, I didn't cheat on you or anything.
You're dead, Gino.
Did not.
You're dead.
I was never with any girl.
You're dead. Why you reacted like that? Or nervous?
I'm not nervous. Just telling you, there's no 30 years I was with you. Never cheated on you. Never been with a girl in my car. Never, ever. I would never do that. I'm in love with you. Why would I do that?
I feel love, Gino. I don't feel love. I don't.
I'm telling you, I would never do that to you.
I don't feel love. I don't feel love.
You have to believe me.
Why are you doing this to me? You know why? Everyone in my life always abandoned me. Why are you?
What's going on, people? We are back again with another MovingMAD video. And you know what's so crazy about Gino? I don't understand why he doesn't understand what Jasmine requires by now. Now, don't get me wrong. No matter what Gino does, Jasmine always find a way to be, absolutely upset. 100%. But when she said, I want to go home now, I want to go to Panama. And Gino was like, okay. There's a reason why she then acted out and lashed. It's because she wants you to beg her to stay. She wants the reassurance that you wanted to stay. So the fact that he was like, okay, but I didn't cheat on you. That's not what she wants to hear right now. She wants to hear that you wanted to stay and you want to make things work. You see what I'm saying? Because I guess for some women in this world, that's just how they work. I mean, it's draining, it's a headache, it's exhausted. But you think by now, Gino would have learned how to handle Jasmine in a lot of situations. But every situation they have, he reacts as if it's the first time, It's crazy, like legit. We've only had like maybe a glimpse of 1 or 2 times. Maybe he's actually reacted as if like he's experienced it before. But for the most part, this guy is oblivious to why she's actually doing what she does. Now, I'm not saying that he has to play her game or whatnot, but if you're going to be with someone who's highly insecure, you're going to have to play that game. Otherwise, you just shouldn't be with that person, because trust me when I tell you, your life is always going to be draining. It is always going to be a headache. And that's something that Gino has to come to terms with. But clearly at this moment in time, he's not doing that. I guess that's why people always speculate whether or not this guy is on the spectrum or if he's in another planet or whatever. But hey, let's continue.
I have abandonment issues, and everything comes from my dad. He abandoned me when I was 3 years old, and he had not interested in being part of my life, and that he regretted having me. That was a huge mistake in his life. Mess up my mind and the way I see myself, because the way I see it is like, if not even my dad can love me, like why any other man will love me? And it's hard for me to trust on a man telling me, I love you and you're pretty and you deserve love, because I never had that.
You know what though? This is the one time in the this is the one time in the first time ever I can 1000% relate to Jasmine and understand where she's coming from. Okay. She comes from a family where she was abandoned by her father, right? And all she wanted was the love of the father. And I completely respect that. I completely get that. And therefore, that's why she has like abandonment issues, because that's the way her life has been for her, because her father's not being there. And most importantly, him pretty much stating that he regretted ever having her, right? So I can understand why love is something that she's very, very hard with. She finds it very hard to be loved, and she finds it very hard to even give the love back, and she finds it very hard to even trust. Now, does this mean that any of these things are an excuse for her behavior? Absolutely freaking not. Just because you've been through this, it doesn't mean that this is where you behave. A woman at her age, at this stage of her life, she should know better. She should know how to control it, and she should know how to appreciate people, and she should know how she should treat people. She shouldn't use it as an excuse to why she should continue being this way. And the reason why I say I relate to it is because I've been through pretty much exactly the same thing, just in a different kind of way. You know what I mean? Of growing up with neglect, being abandoned, being made to feel unworthy, being made to feel as if I shouldn't be here, and being made to feel as if I was a mistake, which technically I was, but yeah, you know what I mean? So I know exactly where she's coming from in terms of the feeling behind it. But here's the thing though, I am younger than Jasmine, okay? I mean, I better be. But I've learned to not allow that to be the definition of who I am. I've allowed it to not be the definition of why I'm going to be mean to people. That's why I'm not mean to people. I've made sure that I've never allowed it anymore to stop me allowing people to love me, to appreciate me, to accept me, which is something that I definitely struggled with for a while. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the way I looked at it is like, I can't use my past as an excuse to not become a better person, to not become a stronger person, to not allow people in. You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to live a life where I'm pretty much going to be miserable and sad and, well, basically like Jasmine in a nutshell. I mean, don't get me wrong. I never was like Jasmine, never to that extent. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So Jasmine really needs to woman up, grow up, and she needs to do better and stop using excuses for her actions and start actually, making the right actions. Therefore, we don't get all of this. And therefore, she can never be in a position where she's like this all the time. I don't know how she's not drained by her own performances. You know, how she's not trained by her own attitude. Like, Jasmine, why are you not tired? Come on. But hey, it's a wild world that we live in.
Well, since Gino had a bachelor party already, maybe we should get some girls, have some fun, have some laughs.
He had one?
He didn't tell you?
No, he told me that he was like not having a bachelor's party until
Out
Okay, but where?
to a strip club.
I need to understand, how is it like the women are touching them, or it's just looking?
He got touched.
He got touched.
I'm sure.
Here I am feeling guilty for getting mad at Gino, being very hard on myself, blaming everything on me. Like,
And then we have this. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I understand why she can be triggered, but just because you're triggered doesn't mean you should behave the way you behave. Without a shadow of a doubt. No. Being triggered is not an excuse to behave like a crazy person, like a psychopath, like a sociopath, like a nutter. Yes. Point being is that the fact that Gino went out on a stag and didn't tell Jasmine is actually quite comical. He knows, and he knew that if Jasmine was to ever find out, she would lose her shiz. So whatever he's got coming in his direction, quite frankly, he deserves it, because he knows the woman he's with and he knows how she is. You know what I'm saying? Because he knows how she is, whatever's coming in his direction, he deserves it, because he should have never gone out on a stag do without telling his woman. I think it's one thing to not tell her, but it's another thing to then not tell her, but then go somewhere where you know it's going to trigger her even more. You see what I'm saying? I listen, it's subjective. Maybe we could say that if he had planned to go somewhere else that didn't involve women, maybe he would have told her. But either way, though, it doesn't change the fact that this has happened and you've kept it a secret. So I'm going to lie to you, man. Roll the next week, because I want to see how this shit goes down. And I want to see how, Gino pretty much gets it. Because like I said before, he knows the woman he's with. And the problem with Gino is that for some reason, he continues to refuse to read the room. And when I say read the room, I'm talking about he should know that, for example, if Jasmine is saying that I want to go home, blah, 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 all she wants you to do is give her reassurance. He refuses to read that room. And she's done that same move so many times. You know what I mean? Now, also at the same time, he knows that Jasmine is not going to be happy if he's around any other woman. Now, she legit was just frustrated with the fact that you had a lipstick situation or whatever, right? And you still went out on a stag do. Fair enough, it was before it, but you still went out on that one. But also on top of that, before that, you've seen the way she's reacted whenever another woman has been involved in your life. It's never been pleasant. It's never been kind. But you still wanted to do it. I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with him wanting to have a stag do, and there's nothing wrong with him wanting to go to a strip club for that. End of the day, probably wasn't even him that planned it. It was probably his best man or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. But what's wrong with the situation is that he knows who he's with. And because he knows who he's with, that's what makes it wrong. You chose your bed. Now you got to lie in it. It's just that simple. But hey, let me know what you're thinking down below and we can talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.